The oak-paneled courtroom was unusually crowded for a Wednesday morning. Reporters hunched over their notepads, a buzz of anticipation humming under the fluorescent lights. Spectators filled every bench, craning necks toward the woman at the defense table. She looked out of place. No lawyer's suit, no nervous shifting. She wore a plain black dress, her posture straight but not stiff, her eyes calm but unreadable. To anyone else, she could have been a quiet school teacher or librarian. Yet the federal government had spent months trying to drag her into this courtroom. Her name on the docket was Elena Cross. The charge: obstruction of justice. The allegations: refusing to comply with subpoenas regarding a covert military operation that had gone horribly wrong overseas. And now, finally, she had been compelled to testify. The judge's voice. Judge Harold Whitmore adjusted his glasses, scanning the papers before him. He was a veteran on the bench, known for his no-nonsense tone and impatience with theatrics. "Miss Cross," he said, bearing down at her, "you've been summoned here to provide clarity on your involvement or lack thereof in Operation Iron Shield." The words fell like a hammer. Reporters scribbled furiously. The spectators leaned forward. Elena tilted her head slightly, eyes flicking briefly to the prosecutor's table. Assistant U.S. Attorney Margaret Dennings sat there, lips pressed tight, ready to pounce. "Do you understand the charges?" Judge Whitmore asked. "I do, Your Honor," Elena said softly, her voice carrying little more than a breath. The judge frowned. "You'll need to speak louder so the court can hear." Elena's lips parted. She leaned forward slightly, but instead of raising her volume, she whispered a word. No, not a word. A call sign. The whisper, Echo 7. The syllables seemed to hang in the air, fragile yet sharp, like the first crack of ice across a frozen lake. For a heartbeat, the courtroom didn't react. The court stenographer hesitated, hands hovering over the keys. The prosecutor froze. Even Judge Whitmore blinked in confusion. Then the silence hit. It was total, the kind of silence that presses down on a room, suffocating, heavy with recognition. Several men in the gallery, men in suits who had blended into the crowd like government wallpaper, suddenly stiffened. One reached instinctively toward his ear, where an earpiece glinted. Another muttered into his sleeve. Reporters looked around, bewildered. They didn't know the meaning, but some in the room did, and those who did. A broken bar went pale. Judge Whitmore cleared his throat, visibly unsettled. "Ms. Cross, a broken bar. What did you just say?" "Echo 7, Elena repeated, this time no louder, but with deliberate calm. "You asked me to speak louder, Your Honor, but perhaps the people who really need to hear me already have." The dominoes fall. The reaction was immediate. The gallery doors opened, two men in dark suits entering, their badges flashing. They weren't court security, they weren't local police, they were federal protective agents. Dennings shot to her feet. "Objection! What is going on here?" But her words drowned in the shifting tide. The quiet had become noisy, chairs scraping, low voices, commands given in clipped urgency. Judge Whitmore slammed his gavel. "Order, order in the court." Yet even his voice wavered, because in the judge's long career, he had never seen federal agents interrupt his courtroom without clearance. And certainly not because of a single whispered phrase. One of the agents approached Elena. He didn't handcuff her, didn't touch her. He only leaned close, his expression a mixture of disbelief and deference. "Ma'am," he said under his breath, "we broken bar. We didn't know you were Echo 7. The courtroom had gone utterly still again. Who was Echo 7? The name wasn't public knowledge. Not really. To the average citizen, it meant nothing. But within certain buried files of the Department of Defense, it carried weight, an immense weight. Echo 7 was the call sign of a deep cover operative, not just an analyst, not just a field officer. Echo 7 was rumored to have been part of Orion Directive, a shadow unit that never officially existed, a unit tasked with handling the kinds of missions even the CIA pretended not to touch. Whispers of Echo 7 had circulated for years among those in intelligence circles. Some claimed Echo 7 had infiltrated terrorist cells. Others swore she'd been the ghost who extracted double agents from enemy soil under impossible circumstances. But the kicker was this: Echo 7 was supposed to be dead, killed in an ambush 5 years ago. The judge's dilemma. Judge Whitmore rubbed his temple. "This is highly irregular." "Miss Cross, you will explain yourself." Elena finally stood, her movements measured, deliberate. "I was summoned here under my civilian identity," she said. "But the truth is, I do not fall under your jurisdiction, Your Honor. The operations in question, the missions you're probing, were never meant to see daylight in a courtroom. And yet here we are." Denning's face flushed crimson. "This is absurd, Your Honor. This woman is Evelina." Elena's gaze cut to her like a scalpel. "You know what Echo 7 means, Miss Dennings. You wouldn't have pushed for this hearing if you did not." "The real question is why?" the prosecutor faltered. For the first time since the trial began, Dennings had no ready retort. A past buried in ash. Reporters shifted restlessly, some whispering, others scribbling the strange new term, Echo 7. They didn't understand it yet, but they knew it was explosive. Elena spoke again, softer, though every syllable carried. 5 years ago, in a desert city that no map records, a mission failed. Civilians died. Soldiers died. I was ordered to disappear. To the world, Echo 7 no longer existed. Elena Cross was born. I took the role of an ordinary citizen, silent, invisible. I honored the pact of erasure. Her eyes flicked toward the agents. Until now. Judge Whitmore's hands trembled slightly as he gripped his gavel. He wasn't a man easily shaken, but this was spiraling beyond the confines of any courtroom he presided over. "Ms. Cross, a broken bar, Elena, a broken bar, Echo 7, a broken bar, whatever name applies," he said carefully. "Why reveal yourself now?" Elena inhaled slowly. "Because you demanded truth under oath, and truth, Your Honor, a broken bar has consequences." The room splinters. The gallery erupted. Some gasps, some shouts. The judge banged his gavel again and again, but the control he once had was dissolving. Dennings slammed a folder shut. "Your Honor, I motion to recess immediately. This line of testimony is compromising national security." But it was too late. The name was out. Cameras in the room clicked furiously. Reporters had no clue what Echo 7 was, but they knew a storm when they smelled one. The federal agents whispered urgently into comms, already coordinating damage control. And in the middle of it all, Elena stood perfectly still, hands resting calmly on the defense table. She wasn't gloating, she wasn't panicked, she was simply a broken bar, resolved. The whispered truth. When the chaos thinned, Elena leaned forward again. Her voice barely rose above a whisper, yet the entire room strained to hear. "You're asking the wrong questions," she said. "Not who I am, not what I did. Ask instead who ordered me to vanish, who buried Echo 7 alive." For a fraction of a second, her eyes flicked toward the prosecutor. Dennings went rigid. The silence that followed was unlike the first. The first had been confusion. This only a broken bar was fear. Fear of what would surface if Elena kept speaking. Fallout. Judge Whitmore finally slammed the gavel one last time. "Court is in recess. Effective immediately. Bailiff, clear the room." But even as the spectators were herded out, as agents clustered tightly around Elena, the damage was irreversible. The call sign had been spoken, the mask had cracked, and every person in that room, a judge, prosecutor, agent, reporter, knew that the story no longer belonged to the court. It belonged to whatever shadow war Echo 7 had just dragged into the light. Aftermath. Outside, cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward, voices shouting. "Who is Echo 7? Is she a spy? Why did the agents react that way? Did the government lie about her death?" Elena Cross was ushered into a black SUV, its tinted windows swallowing her whole. For the crowd, she was gone again, another ghost. But inside the vehicle, as the door shut, one of the agents turned to her. "You've just lit a fuse, ma'am," he said grimly. Elena's lips curved just barely. "No," she whispered. "The fuse was lit years ago. Today, I just reminded them it's still burning."